former superintendent of police, Ainsworth Irish, to get him. And again, I believe traffic has been diverted. Very few cars going past the parliament. Superintendent Irish, just going to call him across. I know he is working with DBS today. Superintendent Irish, you have been a man, I think you have been the parade commander here on a number of occasions. Superintendent Irish, what can we expect here from the parade today?
Yes, well, we should expect 2 platoons from the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force, 1 from the Fire and Ambulance Service, and of course the government band headed by Valerian later. And of course, platoon number 1 will be led, that is, by Inspector Pelham John Baptist. Platoon number 2 will be led by Inspector Bernard Daniel. Of course, the overall commander is Acting Superintendent Antonio Moses. Yes. And of course, our 2IC, or the second in command, will be Assistant Superintendent Belgrave Charles. And indeed, we should see a spectacular presentation here, the presidential salute. Of course, the president will arrive about 2 minutes prior to 10 o'clock, and he'll alight from his vehicle, and there will be a presidential salute. The parade commander will bring the parade to attention, and of course, the national anthem will be played. Then, of course, the president will inspect the guard. He'll be invited to inspect. And after the inspection, he'll proceed inside of the parliament, where the speaker, of course, today is a historic day for the Speaker of Dominica, Alex Boyd Knight, Mrs. Alex Boyd Knight, who is presiding in the 20th budget presentation, which is a very good landmark for Dominica. And of course, the parliament will be suspended in the sense that His Excellency will be asked to, address the nation. He'll probably speak for about 30 minutes on any subject of his choice, whether it's education, whether it's the environment, whether it's geothermal energy, and after that, any subject of his choice, as you know. Yes. And then, of course, after that, the speaker will adjourn briefly to allow His Excellency to leave. And of course, you'll have on the other paper, you'll have the Prime Minister at a later stage of the proceedings, presenting a $1,020,164,545 to Parliament today, a historic budget since post-independence. That's the biggest we have seen. And certainly, I think this is a big accolade for Dominica. You'll have the recurrent expenditure, and you'll have the capital expenditure.
Well, we can hear in the offing the parade is making their way here. If we were to just go out and see what is going on here, the parade is making their way down Victoria Street. I believe they have paraded through the streets of Roseau, and they're making their way down Victoria Street. What is going to happen now as they come across here?
Yes, well, the parade will get into position, and of course the parade commander or the second 2IC will give the command to have them dressed in open order, and they'll take their dressing properly and await the arrival of the Prime Minister. Of course, will arrive about 5 minutes prior to His Excellency the President. You'll probably hear a little fanfare from the government band, and of course they will prepare. His Excellency will come in. Monsieur Savra will be escorted into her seat by the clerk, the secretary to the president, and of course the parade they will await the arrival of His Excellency for the big accolade. So certainly it's a lovely atmosphere here today after this tropical weather we had a couple of days ago.
Brilliant
the sun is out today, brilliant sunshine, and it's really a picturesque. We can see the 2 outriders from the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force here. We can hear the government band in the distance, and of course the leader of the government band is there, Valley, later. And we can hear that music as they take their position. So certainly, it's really a signal honor that it's a big day today. Budget 2019-2020 is going to be a historic occasion.
Yes, and thank you very much, Superintendent Irish. And I can see now the government band is arriving. Let's go across and take the band. the parade has just been placed on stand easy, where they will await the arrival of first the Prime Minister and then the President of Dominica. A number of parliamentarians are already here. If we would just to take a look inside the chamber, I see Senator Josiah Benoit. He's already here. The former leader of the opposition, Hector Sparks John, I saw him coming in a little earlier. And a number of other parliamentarians are making their way into the chamber as well. I also see a number of other guests as well. The CEO of the Dominica Port Authority, Benoit Badwell, is here as well. Dr. Eisenhower Douglas is also here as well. The Minister for Kalinago Affairs is here, Mr. Cassius Daru. They are in attendance as well. The General Manager of the Aid Bank, Marie Terrace Johnson, is already in attendance. Senator Edward Regis, the Deputy Speaker of the House of Assembly, is already here. I will invite him to come across and say a few words with me. He's the Deputy Speaker of the House of Assembly as well. A good friend of mine, Senator Edward Regis, just posing for some photos outside. Not knowing Senator Edward Regis to be someone who likes photos, but today with the pomp and ceremony, he is posing for some photos as well. As I mentioned earlier, the Prime Minister of Dominica is to present a $1.02 billion budget. If we were just to look at the street, what is going on here, we see the two platoons from the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force. They are both headed by inspectors as well as being assisted by sergeants of police. An assistant superintendent of police is the deputy commander of the parade, and that is Assistant Superintendent of Police Belgrade Charles. He is the IC, the second in command here today, and the commander of the parade, as I mentioned earlier, is the Superintendent of Police Superintendent Antonia Moses. And they are just waiting. The police, the members of the police of the platoons are just waiting the arrival of the Prime Minister, followed by His Excellency the President. Former Minister of Government, Mrs. Gloria Schillenford, she has arrived as well. I see the Clerk of Parliament is here. The acting head of Digicel Dominica, Calvia Timothy, she is also in attendance as well. So this is where we are today, and again, a lot of people also turn out, a lot of spectators turn out for the pomp and ceremony in witnessing the parade. The president will arrive and then he will go to the dais. At the dais, he'll be invited by the commander to take the official salute, as well as to inspect a guard of honor here. The president will walk through inspecting the troops, and in years gone by, a number of people may have actually been promoted because of this. The secretary to the president of Dominica, Miss Donille Blackmore, has arrived, and Miss Donille Blackmore, dressed elegantly in a blue frock and a lovely red hat here this morning, and she makes her way inside of the parliament as we speak. And now we will soon see, it is just about 9:30, and in about half an hour we'll see the more formal presentations here with the arrival of the Prime Minister and His Excellency the President, Charles Savarin. As I mentioned earlier, His Excellency the President is expected to arrive from the southern part, that is along Victoria Street. He will get off from his vehicle near the furthest gate, the southern gate of DBS Radio, and then he'll be invited to the dais, where he will be greeted by the parade commander, Superintendent Antonia Moses. She will invite him to take the to inspect the troops, and then she will also invite him to take the official salute, as well as the president will, when he upon his arrival, the government band will play the national anthem. A number of young officers, and this is a day where officers get to show off their look, I should say. They are in full dress uniform, that is the white tunics and the black pants, and they are invited there to honor and to salute His Excellency the President of Dominica. Again, today is expected to be a very, today the sit-in should finish early, because what happens? The Prime Minister of Dominica delivers his budget address. Usually, as has been tradition, the Prime Minister will then ask the House to be adjourned until probably tomorrow or sometime of his choosing, at which point the Leader of the Opposition will then be invited to give a rebuttal. The rebuttal of the Leader of the Opposition is expected to last the same amount of time which was taken by the Prime Minister. The Leader of the Opposition gets the same amount of time to rebut as the Prime Minister took to deliver his address. And then, going on, ministers of government will be given 1 hour and other members of the House half an hour to debate the budget presentation. The budget presentation, the budget debate is when, after the Prime Minister has finished the budget address, members of the House, following the Leader of the Opposition, will be invited to debate the budget. Ministers of government, as tradition, are given 1 hour to debate, and other members of the House half an hour. Ministers of government, in particular those who are parliamentary representatives, are given 1 hour so that they could speak on their ministries as well as their constituencies. There is no order, there is no set order. It is who the Speaker's eye falls on first that she recognizes, who is then called upon to make their presentation. Following the presentation by members, the Prime Minister is then called upon to do a rebuttal. I believe that rebuttal lasts about half an hour. As you know, in the House makes provision for rules in terms of extension of time and that sort of thing. So that these are some of the things that takes place in the House. And all this time, the Speaker of the House is presiding over this. She's assisted by the Deputy Speaker of Parliament. Very soon we expect to see the arrival of the Prime Minister as well. The Prime Minister usually comes in quite early to the budget debate, and he mingles with members of Parliament, a number of them who are already here as well. So this is what is going on here. A number of other members have already arrived in the House. I've seen also the President of the Dominica State College, Dr. Donald Peters. He's here as well. I am also seeing other members of the House, other invited guests who have arrived as well and are just making their way. They will be guided to seats assigned to them. It's not a sit-down where you want kind of thing today. Due to the small enclosure of the House, seats are assigned and people are to sit where assigned. I see the budget controller is already here. I also see a number of other people. A lot have not yet entered the chamber. They're on the outside mingling, and they're speaking with probably friends who they have not seen for a while, or even if they have seen for a while, just a chance to catch up and that sort of thing. So this is where we are at this time. What we're going to do now, we are going to just take a short break, and then we'll be back very soon to continue the presentation here today. has arrived, and he'll be equipping his vehicle, and he'll be taking some fanfare. Then he will fight an official salute. Prime Minister Skerrit just arriving here at the Parliament. A lot of people describe it as his day, the arrival of the Prime Minister and Mrs. Skerrit here at the Parliament this morning. Mrs. Skerrit has just exited her vehicle, of course, dressed in a lovely pink dress. And Prime Minister Skerrit has the red box in his hand. Just allowing Mrs. Skerrit there. I believe she will be entering the Parliament, and the Prime Minister may be called upon to the dais, and where he will take the general salute. And the Prime Minister now will enter the chamber, accompanied by Mrs. Skerrit. And Prime Minister Skerrit will now enter the chamber, where he will be greeted by a number of people there. I also see the arrival of a number of members from the opposition. Senator Ronald Charles is making his way to Parliament, but Prime Minister Skerrit is greeting the number of people who are assembled here at the Parliament. Here now see him greeting the Kalinago Chief-elect, Mr. Lorenzo Sanford, and he will now make his way to his place in Parliament, just saying hello to Justina Charles, the Member of Parliament for Granby, as well as the Minister for Youth, Sports and Constituency Empowerment. The Prime Minister has made his way to his seat. We see the Deputy Prime Minister is already here, the Minister for Kalinago Affairs, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, the Minister for Economic Planning, the Minister for Public Works, Water Resource Management and Ports. A number of former parliamentarians are also here, including Mrs. Gloria Schillenford and Ms. Tammy Jajak, a number of senior government officials, including Secretary to the Cabinet, Mr. Steve Farrell, he is here as well, a number of permanent secretaries, and also other senior government officials. And very soon we will see the arrival of His Excellency the President. If we were just to keep that shot, which is on the screen now, as we see the arrival of Mr. Rayburn Blackmore, the Minister for Justice, Immigration and National Security, we see the permanent secretaries, the financial secretary, the director of audit, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Commerce, Ms. Esther Thomas, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Health, Mrs. Letitia Wyke-Lestrade, Ms. Denise Edwards, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Public Works, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Youth, and also in the Ministry of Kalinago Affairs, Ms. Mandra Fagan, and Ms. Joanne Commodore, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Justice, Immigration and National Security. In the forefront, you have the Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Steve Farrell, as well as the Financial Secretary, Ms. Rosamond Edwards, and next to her is the Director of Audit. The place has filled up very quickly. We also see the Permanent Secretary there in the Ministry of Economic Planning, Ms. Gloria Joseph, as well as the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ms. Sylvanie Burton. Also here as well, a number of government ministers. We now see the arrival of the leader of the opposition, Lennox Linton, as well as former leader of the opposition, Hector Spags John. The Member of Parliament for the Wesley constituency, Ezekiel Basil, is here as well as Senators Isaac Baptiste and Ronald Charles. So this is where we are. We are now just awaiting the arrival of His Excellency, the President of Dominica, Mr. Charles Angelo Savran, and he's expected any minute now to arrive here at the Parliament. Now see arriving Danny Lugue, the parliamentary representative for the Roseau North constituency, and he will make his way into Parliament now. There we see the wife of the Prime Minister as well as the husband of Mrs. Justina Rivera, the wife of the Minister for Tourism, Mr. Robert Tongue. Mrs. Robert Tongue is here as well. Former Ministers of Government, Ambrose George, Lloyd Pascal, as well as His Excellency, the Ambassador of Venezuela to Dominica. I also see the Director of the Dominica Social Security, the CEO of the Discover Dominica Authority, the CEO of the port, as well as I mentioned earlier, the Kalinago Chief-elect, the Mayor of Portsmouth, Mr. Titus Francis, is here as well, the General Manager of the Aid Bank, the General Manager of the National Bank of Dominica, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism and Culture, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Housing Lands, as well as the Ministry of Information. They are all present here as well. A crowd has gathered near the, small crowd has gathered near the public library, and they are just observing what is going on here, the pomp and ceremony associated with the opening of the first meeting, the fifth session of the 9th Parliament. The first meeting of the session Parliament has been prorogued by SR&O number 28 of 2019, and there has been a proclamation reconvening Parliament, SR&O number 29 of 2019, and that signals a new session of Parliament. This session is the fifth of the 9th Parliament. The 9th Parliament, that signifies that there has been 9 general elections since Dominica gained independence from Great Britain in 1978. The first general elections were in 1980, followed by elections of 1985, 1990, 1995, 2000, 2005, 2009, and 2014. A number of changes have been made since independence of 1978. In 1978, we had a heavy silver mace, and that has been replaced in the Parliament by a lovely mace of wood made by local craftsman Martin Alin, I believe is his name. And that has been crafted, and that is what we use today. The Speaker's chair was a gift from the British Parliament, and it was a gift delivered in Dominica in 1980. There have been a number of speakers of the House of Assembly, beginning with Fred Degazon. There was also Pershing Waldron. Former President of Dominica, Crispin Serendo, was also Speaker of the House. There was also Speaker of the House, Mary Davis Spear, Neva Edwards, as well as Ozzie Sims. Alex Boyd Knight has been serving as Speaker of the House of Assembly since 2000. Again, the House of Assembly is the highest decision-making body in the land, and this is where laws are crafted and sent to the President for his ascension, and then they become laws in the Commonwealth of Dominica. To run through the order paper again today, there is the formal entry of the Speaker, followed by prayers, followed by the adoption of the order paper. The sitting of the House is then suspended to allow for the President to enter the Parliament, where he will deliver the President's address. Following the President's address, the House will resume. There will be obituary and congratulatory remarks, and I believe there are some obituaries as 3 former members of Parliament has passed away in recent weeks, and that is Mr. Pershing Waldron, who is expected to be buried on August 6, 2019. Mr. Pershing Waldron, a former Speaker of the House of Assembly, and he is also a former Senator in the House as well. And also Mr. Luke Corriott, who passed away, I believe, on Friday, as well as Mr. Arnold Active, who also passed away on Friday. 3 former members of this Parliament who have passed away, and usually they are afforded an official funeral. And the official funeral of the late Pershing Waldron will be held on August 6th, and I believe very soon you will be informed through press releases of the Office of the Prime Minister on the official funeral of Mr. Pershing Waldron and others. I believe that the Speaker has entered the House, and thus we will begin the formal sitting of the Parliament.
Almighty, in thy infinite wisdom and for providential goodness, has appointed the offices of rulers and councils for the welfare of society and the just government of man. We beseech thee to behold with thy abundant favor us thou hast been pleased to call to the performance of such important trusts in the Commonwealth of Dominica. Let thy blessing descend upon us here in this Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in thy presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote thy honor and glory, and to advance the good of those whose interests thou hast committed to our charge, all which we ask in the name and for the sake of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. Please be seated.
Madam Speaker, I move a few amendments to the order paper. Under item 13, public business, government business motion. In respect to the authorization for overdraft, I propose that we delete the words and figures 31,500,000 and replace with the words and figures $56,500,000. Under item 14, appointment of committees, insert 4, Roman numeral 4, Creed Parliamentary Oversight Committee. Thank you.
We do have a seconder.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that under item 13, public business, government business motion, authorization for overdraft, the words 31,500,000 East Caribbean dollars be deleted and replaced with the words and figures 56,500,000 East Caribbean dollars. And under item 14, insert under appointments of committees, Pre-parliamentary Oversight Committee. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The amendment stands made.
Madam Speaker, I move that the order paper be adopted as amended.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the order paper be adopted as amended. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I will receive His Excellency, who will be coming into the chamber to address us.
Madam Speaker!
Members, please sit. And go.
Please be seated. I'll now ask His Excellency to address us.
Madam Speaker, honorable members of the House of Assembly, I give thanks, first of all, to God Almighty for allowing us to again congregate in this august and honorable House of Assembly. I thank you, Madam Speaker, most sincerely for the invitation which you extended to my wife and I to attend this sitting of the House and for me to address this first meeting of the 5th session of the 9th Parliament. And may I, Madam Speaker, congratulate you on 20 years as presiding over these proceedings. Madam Speaker, the challenges and trials which have confronted us this last couple of years make the words penned by Charles Wesley, the brother of John Wesley, the founder of the Methodist Church, particularly relevant. And I quote, "And are we yet alive and see each other's face? Glory and thanks to Jesus give for his almighty grace. What troubles have we seen? What mighty conflicts past, fightings without and fears within, since we assembled last. Yet out of all, the Lord hath brought us by his love, and still he doth his help afford, and hides our life above." Madam Speaker, I chose these words of Charles Wesley to remind us in this honorable House and in the Nature Isle to give thanks and praise to God for the great things he has done for us as a people since we last met at the beginning of the last financial year, and to call on us to pray for his continued blessings upon us in this new financial year. On this occasion, I am particularly pleased and honored to be given the privilege to address you on an optimistic note as we witness the phenomenal recovery which is taking place in Dominica less than 2 years after the catastrophic impact of Hurricane Maria. I have therefore decided to address you on the important topic of pursuing resilience and inclusive growth and development in Dominica post-Maria. Madam Speaker, it is widely accepted that the impact on the local economy of Tropical Storm Erica in 2015, followed by Hurricane Maria in 2017, represent a loss of 93% of GDP, that is the latest IMF estimate, and 226% of GDP of the island of Dominica. When taken in conjunction with the underlying phenomenon of climate change, these climate-induced natural disasters have altered the awareness and behavior, indeed the very psyche of Dominicans, in fundamental ways. The evidence reveals that our survival as a country is under threat, and that this danger is coming from sources outside of our direct control. Added to this reality is the incidence of vulnerability of the island to external influenced economic shocks, such as that which precipitated the demise of the local banana industry several years ago, and the attack on financial services with the risk of termination of correspondent bank relationships. Yet, there is still the higher risk of climate-induced natural disasters. As was the case with Erica and Maria, these natural disasters are capable of causing considerable loss of life and of disrupting critical infrastructure and livelihoods in the entire country for extended periods. In the process, hard-earned gains in national prosperity, wealth creation, and individual well-being are either lost altogether or severely compromised. These phenomena force citizens and government alike into a continuous replacement mode, replacing roads, bridges, sea and river defenses, dredging and re-dredging rivers and watercourses, replacing schools, hospitals, and health centers, replacing public utilities, replacing hotel and tourism facilities, replacing manufacturing and processing plants, replacing housing and business facilities, re-establishing agricultural and fisheries production, and re-establishing the very forest itself. But this traumatic experience has not daunted the Dominican spirit. Instead, it has strengthened the culture of struggle and resistance embedded in the psyche of the Dominican people, who have had to struggle over time, not just with the elements, but with the challenges posed by the very topography. Nevertheless, the overall threat confronting the populace at this time is not perceived by the ordinary citizen as being insurmountable. If there was any doubt as to the resilience and fighting spirit of the Dominican people, we only have to listen to the account of the real life struggles of Ms. Jaya Pending, which she articulated in her valedictorian address at the 17th graduation ceremony of the Dominica State College on Tuesday, the 9th of July, 2019, and her determination to never give up. This determination to build back better and stronger and never give up is attributable in part to the leadership role being displayed by central government in responding to the challenges at hand by announcing to the United Nations and therefore to the world, just 5 days after the passage of Hurricane Maria, a vision to rebuild Dominica better and stronger, and as the first climate-resilient country in the world. This vision was embraced by the international community and has galvanized the support for its implementation, thereby enabling the taking of several strategic steps to include, one, the operationalization of the Climate Resilient Execution Agency of Dominica, CREED, buttressed by the requisite legislation which was passed in the House of Assembly in 2018. The massive housing and re-roofing programs island-wide that is currently underway, spearheaded by government under the Citizenship by Investment program, and which is also being funded in part with external donor support and humanitarian assistance. 3, rehabilitation or restoration of physical and institutional infrastructure, notably with respect to roads, bridges, sea and river defenses, drainage systems, capacity building initiatives, and management systems. And 4, the complete relocation of 2 communities in the southeast of the island, namely Petite Savannah and Dubique, which were totally devastated by Tropical Storm Erica, and which has resulted in the resettlement of 165 families to a relatively nearby alternative location, that is in Belvis-Chopin, and an additional 50 families from Dubique resettled at center in Granby. When addressing the United Nations on the 23rd of September 2017, just 5 days after the passage of Hurricane Maria, the Prime Minister said, and I quote, "We as a country and as a region did not start this war against nature. We did not provoke it. The war has come to us," unquote. Madam Speaker, Dominica in 2019 may thus be properly classified as a country on a war footing, after having been attacked by the forces of nature, and therefore focusing on developing its state of readiness to confront the many hazards which we continue to be faced with and which can properly be attributed to climate change and disaster vulnerability. Central to that overall effort at developing a state of readiness is that of fostering resilience throughout the country. This is consistent with the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, an agreement among United Nations member states, including Dominica, which officially came into existence in January 2016. Specifically, we refer to Goal 13 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which seeks to, and I quote, "strengthen resilience and adaptive capacity to climate-related hazards and natural disasters in all countries," unquote. Madam Speaker, honorable members, while building resilience is important and indeed necessary, it must be taken in context. It cannot, and indeed should not, be dealt with in isolation of the several other SDGs, central to which is the issue of economic growth, particularly as set out in Goal 8 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, namely to, and I quote, "promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all," unquote. A retrospective look at the record on national economic growth performance over the past decade, say 2006 to 2016, reveals a mean annual growth of real gross domestic product of 1.8% for Dominica. This compares with 1.76% for St. Kitts and Nevis, the next best performing OECS country when measured against that yardstick. Furthermore, unlike many of the neighboring islands' economies, Dominica's topography is such that in addition to the challenges which it presents, we have had to contend with a range of climate-induced disasters of varying magnitudes over the period at reference, that is 2006 to 2016, resulting in flooding, damage from rough seas, drought, pest and disease in agriculture, and landslides. For example, it was during the set period that Hurricane Dean in 2007 struck the island, followed by Hurricane Omar in 2008. But these were Category 2 and Category 3 events, respectively. Prior to this, during the decade of the 80s, when banana was king, the mean annual growth rate of real GDP in Dominica was 4.4%. That is considerably higher than the comparable figure today. However, while the data reveals that growth in GDP annually was better and faster back then on average, the evidence is unequivocal that the trajectory of the economy during the period at reference was not sustainable. This finding is in addition to the fact that the onset of climate change was in its infancy at that time, and hence the incidence of disaster vulnerability in the country had not yet transitioned into the global crisis that it is today. Moreover, the continuous replacement mode phenomenon alluded to earlier in this address constitute a significant constraint to the growth and development process in Dominica, a situation which can be expected to be reduced or ameliorated as a result of the emphasis on national resilience building. Madam Speaker, with respect to achieving inclusive growth, the National Resilience Development Strategy makes reference to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals target annual growth rate of GDP for least developed countries of 7%, coupled with low inflation. The NRDS articulates 5 strategic growth poles for Dominica to encompass renewable energy, productive enterprises, creative industries, infrastructure, and human services. Necessary action on several of these growth poles is considerably advanced at this time, as is the case with renewable energy, for example, as manifested in the Geothermal Energy Development Project. However, I am advised that this is not yet the case with all of the potential growth poles mentioned, and thus corrective action is necessary to advance progress in those areas. It is also important to appreciate that as an independent sovereign state, the onus is on us to identify the requisite financial resources necessary for investing in the survival and prosperity of our people, whether directly, say for allocation via the public sector investment program, or through private sector entrepreneurial activity. Prior to the attainment of political independence in 1978, that responsibility was shared with Great Britain. In fact, such a situation, which may properly be defined as a quasi-colonial relationship, still exists today regarding several of the neighboring Caribbean islands, such as the British Virgin Islands, the United States Virgin Islands, Anguilla, St. Martin, and Puerto Rico, all of which were struck by Hurricanes Irma and/or Maria in 2017. Indeed, this category of countries may be further extended to also encompass the French Caribbean islands of Martinique and Guadeloupe and the Dutch Antilles. The evidence is that the recovery of Dominica post-2017 hurricane season is as good as that of any of the other Caribbean islands which were also impacted, and indeed better than most. The ingredients for this phenomenal performance post-Maria may be characterized as a platform for the emerging growth trajectory which the country is transitioning onto, one which is inclusive of anyone who is willing and or able to invest in the future, whether living here at home or overseas in the diaspora. In this regard, the following major initiatives already underway in Dominica are consistent with such a performance, namely, 1, the modernization of agriculture and fisheries sector to mainstream greenhouse technology, hydroponics, higher farm productivity, the utilization of robust soil and water conservation practices, as well as aquaculture and mariculture, as envisaged under the US $25 million World Bank finance Emergency Agricultural Livelihoods and Climate Resilience Project, and other funding for agriculture. And 2, continued emphasis on recovery of the tourism sector to its pre-Hurricane Maria levels and beyond, with visitor expenditure targeted to trend above the $383.28 million achieved in 2016. To date, first and second quarter stayover arrivals have surpassed 2016, 2017, and 2018, totaling 43,774 arrivals, that is for the first half of the year, as opposed to 26,266 arrivals in 2018, 40,699 arrivals in 2017, and 35,340 arrivals in 2016. The figures for the entire period may be very interesting indeed. This improved outturn in 2019 so far, when viewed in conjunction with a massive expansion or investment in new hotel plants in the country that is now underway, most of which are in the 5-star hotel category, combined with an island-wide redevelopment of the road network and proposals for the construction of an international airport, a cruise port and cruise village, when taken together, augur well for improved new sources of employment and income on the horizon for Dominicans, whether resident here on island or living abroad. Madam Speaker, it could therefore be said that a new national economy is emerging from the ruins of the climate-induced natural disasters of 2015 and 2017. An exercise which will require some nurturing if the seeds being planted now are to bear fruit abundantly in the future. Against this background, it is prudent to be mindful of the fact that in life, success is never guaranteed. Indeed, there are numerous examples worldwide, regionally, and in Dominica, where well-prepared plans and programs have failed to materialize. Madam Speaker, I am optimistic about Dominica's future. We have done exceedingly well in our recovery so far, post-Hurricane Maria, and we can all be proud and congratulate ourselves on our achievements to date. And now I come to general elections and the electoral process. Madam Speaker, this is the first meeting of the 5th session of the 9th Parliament, which means that when we meet again in this setting, it will be the first meeting of the first session of the 10th Parliament, that is, after the upcoming general elections. A general election may be characterized as the quintessential manifestation of democracy in a country. At its core, it provides the citizens with the right and the opportunity to choose their representatives in Parliament and thereby their government via secret ballot. Additionally, there are crucial underlying institutions or mechanisms necessary for the proper functioning of the election process, to include the media, the rule of law, the Electoral Commission and its associated machinery, which, taken together, comprise the architecture of a democratic system. Typically, general elections held in Dominica are peaceful, and the process is conducted in a manner in keeping with international best practice. Furthermore, the country's membership of the Caribbean Community CARICOM, as well as the Organization of East Caribbean States, the OECS, the Commonwealth, the Organization of American States, and of course the United Nations, imply a code of conduct by government and opposition on matters pertaining to fundamental rights and freedoms and democracy at the national level. This upcoming poll is expected to be peaceful, as well as being undertaken in a manner consistent with international best practices. Essentially, the system or regime for conducting a free and fair poll in Dominica is in place and has been so for several decades, indeed since before the attainment of independence in 1978. Madam Speaker, no system anywhere is perfect. Indeed, in the struggle of life, there's always room for improvement in our various systems and endeavors, and that principle applies to our electoral system as well. But generally, that system has stood us in good stead over the years, and all three of our major political parties have won and lost elections under the existing system. As our country faces the future, may the good Lord continue to shower his blessings on our people, as together we seek to overcome the many challenges confronting the nation, along with fostering the understanding necessary to persevere in pursuit of excellence. We also seek the Lord's guidance in strengthening our resolve as a people to build a prosperous Dominica, and to do so in a manner which meets the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Because, Madam Speaker, when Dominica succeeds, it is the entire nation, all of our people, at home and abroad, who benefit. As parliamentarians and citizens, therefore, let us seek God's guidance to love one another and to unite in a common endeavor, not only to build back better and stronger, but indeed to make Dominica the first climate-resilient country in the world. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
I will now take leave of His Excellency and Mrs. Savary. Please be seated. House resumes.
Madam Speaker, I move that a message of thanks be sent to His Excellency the President for what I believe all of us will agree was an apt reminder of the reality of our country after the passage of Hurricane Maria and the progress we have made together since then. So I wish that we extend many thanks and congratulations to His Excellency, the President, from the whole House. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Seconder.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that a message of thanks be forwarded to His Excellency the President. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Obituary and congratulatory messages.
Madam Speaker, I want to express my condolences to the family of former member of this Parliament, Mr. Arnold Active, and to express my sincere condolences to his wife, Evelyn. Mr. Active passed away last week, Friday. He was resident at the infirmary, and his widow is in Canefield, Idaho. So we want to sincerely express our sympathy to the family.
Madam Speaker, let me take this opportunity to also congratulate you on reaching such a milestone. And most importantly, because you're a lady. Because many times we don't recognize our ladies when they achieve something good and reaching such a milestone. So congratulations to you. And also, Madam Speaker, I would love to take this opportunity to congratulate our newly elected Kalinago Obutu, Mr. Lawrence Osanpado, who is sitting in the audience. Because, Madam Speaker, many times we as adults, we always take the opportunity to criticize when our youths are not doing the right things. And here we have in the Kalinago territory a very bright young individual who has taken up the mantle of chief to lead the Kalinago people, I believe, into a brighter future. And we as the Kalinago people, we have given him the opportunity, and he has embraced it. What I implore of him is for us to work hand in hand. Let us hold hands to make things happen in the Kalinago territory. I want to implore to him that let us work with the central government, because at this time I believe the well is nowhere close to being empty, and we should take the opportunities that are coming our way in the Kalinago territory. And let us bring new energies in the community so that people can, the Kalinago territory can be the best place for people to visit and for us as a people to live. So I want to congratulate him, and let us help to build a new Kalinago territory and a revised Dominica. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, I would like to express sympathies to Honorable Hector John on the passing of his dad, Macville John, and to the entire home circle. I wish them Godspeed, and that they will, in time, their hearts and homes will be healed.
Madam Speaker, I too would like to rise and express some words of sympathy and give some obituary remarks, Madam Speaker, on behalf of what I consider to be some stalwarts of the Dominica Labour Party who served in this Honourable House of Assembly in this Parliament. Madam Speaker, first I speak of Honourable, as he was at the time, Kushin Waldron, Madam Speaker, who served as Speaker of the House of Assembly, I believe, during some very turbulent times in our country, Madam Speaker. And from all reports and from the research
that I have done, Madam Speaker. He did a fine job in settling the House, Madam Speaker. And we all know, I don't need to go into the historical events, Madam Speaker, of that time. But Madam Speaker, his stewardship and his management of the House was exemplary, Madam Speaker, and it is on those shoulders that you yourself have continued to serve, Madam Speaker, as another great Speaker of the House of Assembly. He also went on, Madam Speaker, to be a formidable regional banker in the region. He served in several countries of the region, of our CARICOM region, in the Bahamas, in Antigua, Madam Speaker. And what is even more noteworthy, Madam Speaker, he served his fellow men in the church, Madam Speaker. He was lately, Madam Speaker, deacon, ordained deacon in the Roman Catholic Church, and more particularly in Portsmouth, where I am from, Madam Speaker. I'm the parliamentary representative from Portsmouth, and a very devout Catholic, Madam Speaker. And so on behalf of the congregation, first of the Roman Catholic Church in Portsmouth, of St. John, in the parish of St. John and St. Louis, and also in general in Dominica, we would like to extend our deepest condolences, Madam Speaker, to Deacon Pershing Waldron, who will be laid to rest, I believe, next week. May his soul rest in peace. Madam Speaker, I also want to express my words of sympathy to two other Labour stalwarts, Madam Speaker, in the persons of Honourable Arnold Active, as he then was, Honourable Luke Corrier, Madam Speaker, who served in the Labour Party. If my memory serves me right, Luke Corrier may have served from 1975 on to 1979, when unfortunately the party met his political demise, Madam Speaker, and he, from all reports, served his constituents faithfully, and also Mr. Arnold Active, who also served in the Labour Party administration. So on behalf of all of us on this side, the Honourable Prime Minister, the Leader of the House, and the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Dominican Labour Party, we would like to express our deepest condolences and sympathies to the families of these honourable gentlemen who first served our party very well and our country in this House of Assembly. May their souls rest in peace, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much.
Confirmation of minutes of meeting of 29th April 2019.
Madam Speaker, I move that the minutes of the meeting of Monday, 29th April 2019 be confirmed as circulated.
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the minutes of the meeting of Monday, 29th April 2019 be confirmed as circulated. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Announcements by Speaker.
For this meeting, this sitting, I will just make two announcements, and those are relating to letters that I received. First, from the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Health on behalf of Honorable Ivor Stevenson, who is unable to attend due to his illness, and then also from Honorable Peter Saint-Jean, Minister of Education and Human Resource Development, who is overseas seeking medical attention. That is all my announcements for the time being.
Presentation of papers.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table. 1, proclamation proroguing Parliament, SRO number 28 of 2019. 2, proclamation reconvening Parliament, SRO number 29 of 2019. 3, draft estimates of revenue and expenditure for the financial year 2019-2020. 4, Invest Dominica Authority financial statements for the year ended June 30, 2018. 5, Social Security collection of contributions amendment regulations. SRO number 22 of 2019. And 6, Social Security Self-Employed Persons Amendment Regulations, SRO number 23 of 2019. And 7, Social Security Benefit Amendment Regulations, SRO number 24 of 2019.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table. Economic and Social Review for fiscal years 2017 and 18 and 2018 and 19.
Government notices.
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the later stage of the proceedings, I will be moving the motions and taking all stages of the bill standing in my name on the other paper.
Statement by ministers. Public business, government business, motion.
Estimates of revenue and expenditure for financial year ending 30th June 2020. Be it resolved that this Honorable House approves the estimates of expenditure for the financial year ending 30th June 2020 amounting to $1,020,164,545, the details of which are contained in the draft estimates of the Commonwealth of Dominica for the year ending 30th June 2020. Madam Speaker, Cabinet colleagues, members of this Honorable House, distinguished guests, fellow Dominicans, residents, and friends. I come to this Honorable House today to present my 14th budget as your Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, and to boldly proclaim glory. Glory to the Most High. I thank God for His grace and mercy, for showering these blessings on our country, and for showing the way to new and better days for all of us in this beautiful country. Less than 2 years ago, we were a nation and a people fearful for our future, written off by many as without a hope or chance, living amongst the rubble of broken homes and shattered dreams. Our businesses and lives were bruised and battered. We had fallen, thrown to the ground by one of the most powerful weather systems the world had ever seen. But God has picked us up, Madam Speaker. Yes. Today, I say glory for broken spirits reborn, for a recovering Dominica, for a renewed Dominica, for a resurgent Dominica. Today, let us as a parliament, as a nation, and the people say, glory, because with nothing more than our faith and determination, the support of good friends, we have moved from the loss of 96% of GDP caused by Tropical Storm Erica and 226% of our GDP caused by Hurricane Maria, to an economy that is growing at 9% this year, Madam Speaker. This is a significant and indeed miraculous rebound, given the enormity of the destruction that we had first to face and then to overcome. This is why, Madam Speaker, on Sunday, 11th August, we will rededicate this nation to the Lord, who has spared us from utter destruction. Together as a nation, we will give him the glory and praise. He has touched the hearts of friends and partners throughout the world, and they in turn have assisted in lifting us out of the most tragic and destructive episodes of our history as an independent country. I also thank you, the people of Dominica, at home and in the diaspora, for your steadfast and persistent prayers, for your unflagging words of encouragement and support for the Cabinet, my family, and I. The confidence you continue to demonstrate in this government has strengthened our determination and deepened our commitment to serve you with every ounce of energy the Lord has given to us. Madam Speaker, when the Dominica Labour Party took on the challenge of leadership 19 years ago, we inherited a country that was highly indebted and virtually bankrupt. Yes. Public officers were not being paid on time. The Social Security payments, though deducted from the salaries of public officers, were not remitted to the Social Security in accordance to the law. The United Workers' Party government had mismanaged the country and the economy. The United Workers' Party had contracted expensive loans, some at interest rates of 14%. These loans were so outrageous and unreasonable. They represent such poor judgment and leadership decisions that you, the taxpayers of our country, are still paying these loans today. The people of this country put the ideology behind them, placed their faith in labor, and with your support, we were able to stabilize the economy and turn the fortunes of this country around. We built a solid economy, improved healthcare and education, created greater opportunities for young people, modernized the national infrastructure, and led the country in a way that has caused it to be respected across the globe. It was not by accident that the international community lent support to get Dominica back on its feet. It is a result of the excellent international relationships that this Labour Party government has built in the region and the wider world. It is the result of the respect Dominica has garnered under this administration. It is because the leaders of this Dominica Labour Party are respected and have credibility across the globe. That's right. Madam Speaker, that is what is needed in times of trial and trouble. That is what is needed when calamity comes to our country. This Labour Party administration was tested like no other country in this region and as few across the world have been. But when it mattered, this administration was able to take the necessary steps on the global stage to immediately make a difference in our country. And you know, Madam Speaker, when you looked around after Hurricane Maria, it was the Dominican Labour Party that you saw in every community. It was the Labour Party that made the difference in the disaster. It is the Labour Party that really cares for the people of Dominica. These 19 years have not been without their challenges. As a small island developing state with an open economy and limited resources, we remain extremely vulnerable to external shocks. The world economic crisis in 2008 had considerable impact on our development action plan and affected the growth rates of many economies in the developed and the developing world, including our own and others right here in the Caribbean. Over this period, we have also suffered the debilitating impact of climate-related disasters. We had Tropical Storm Ophelia in 2010, the Christmas Eve trough in 2013, and the brutal Tropical Storm Erica in 2015, and Hurricane Maria in 2017. Though these storms have severely set back plans that we have to grow the economy and develop our infrastructure, we are bouncing back at a faster rate than many could have imagined. Those who have visited New Orleans and other areas hit by Hurricane Katrina in 2005 say that to this day, there are still abandoned communities, houses, and infrastructure that have never been repaired or rebuilt, schools and facilities that are yet to be repaired. And that is, Madam Speaker, in the great mighty United States of America. And what is the case in our small country, Dominica, 2 years after the worst disaster we have seen in our living history? So we say glory, Madam Speaker, to the story of Dominica today, for the story of Dominica today is not doom, gloom, and despair, but renewal, revitalization, Madam Speaker, houses, roads, lights, water, hospitals, schools, businesses, communities. Our story is one of a political party that, with the help of God and the resilience of our nationals, worked a miracle. Not only are we in full recovery mode, but we have charted a course for the development of this country as the first climate-resilient country in the world. One that has captured the imagination and garnered the support of our friends and partners regionally and internationally. The eyes of the globe, or global community, are now on us for the pioneering policy which is emerging from one of the world's smallest nations. Many of us have been able to move on with our lives today as if there had been no Erica and as if there had been no Maria. I say to all Dominicans today that had it not been for the prudent fiscal management by this government, the vision of this government, and the sincere friendships which we have cultivated over these years, our recovery would not have been so swift. Madam Speaker, hundreds left the country after Maria, fearing that this country was doomed and we would not recover. But I will tell you, most of them have returned. They have returned, Madam Speaker, because this Dominican Labour Party government has not missed a salary payment, nor was any public servant sent home. They have returned because all schools are operational. Yes. They have returned because all public services and utilities have been restored. They have returned, Madam Speaker, because this government is pursuing an aggressive and successful housing program across all parts of this country. They have returned because with direct and indirect support from the government, the economy is recovering. Farmers are planting, selling, and exporting. Yes. Madam Speaker, tourism is doing well. Our hotels have been reopening, and new ones are coming online. Businesses have reopened and expanded, roads are being repaired, and new ones built. Phase 1 of our new state-of-the-art hospital is set to open next month, August 2019. New jobs and decent work is available to our young people. They have returned because Dominica is on its feet once more, and we are open for business. In short, there are opportunities in our country for all those who are prepared to take advantage of them. Madam Speaker, the theme of resilience means stability and sustainability. It must become the Dominican way of life. It means building properties and infrastructure that are hurricane resistant, so that our lives, society and economy are not devastated every time a powerful weather system comes calling. It requires us to build using methodologies and technologies that make them strong enough to stand up against the effects of climate change. Climate resilience is not a fancy term, Madam Speaker. It has to remain central to everything that we do as a nation. It will ensure Dominica's survival. I caution that climate-proof in Dominica will be more expensive, will require international help to achieve, and will take time to accomplish, but we will get there because our citizens have embraced our vision, and it has found favor locally and internationally. We must get there if we are to survive and indeed if we are to succeed. Madam Speaker, I will now highlight some of the major achievements that have taken place over the last year as part of our national recovery effort. Madam Speaker, it is a well-known fact that Hurricane Maria decimated our agriculture sector. We lost the majority of our bananas, tree crops, coconuts, vegetables, and livestock. Approximately 85% of fishing infrastructure, including boats, landing sites, fishing complex, and other assets were destroyed. This government immediately embarked on the rehabilitation of the sector. Our first priority was to ensure food security and access to fresh food for our people. It was important that our farmers went back to planting in the quickest possible time. To achieve this, we started a massive vegetable seedling production program and provided farmers across the island with seedlings. Within a few months after Maria, farmers had vegetables available for consumption. We focused largely on the production of medium-term crops for the local and international markets in order to further strengthen our food security and to restore the economic viability of the sector. More specifically, we targeted the following crops: bananas and plantain, dashing, yams and tanya, sweet and white potatoes, passion fruit. Madam Speaker, since Maria, we have imported a total of 30,000 banana plantlets, which were delivered to us in 2 tranches. The first 15,000 are currently being distributed to major banana farmers, and the second set of 15,000 is being hardened and will be available later this year. This is expected to cultivate up to 43 acres of bananas in our country. Within this financial year, banana production is projected to return to pre-Maria production level. Madam Speaker, our experience taught us that both white and sweet potatoes proved to be resilient crops, which in the days and weeks in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria helped sustain the nutritional requirements of many families. In light of this, the Ministry of Agriculture continues to provide support to the subsector. 32 acres of white potato cultivation yielded 295,218 pounds. Based on this success and the demands by the markets, we are doubling the importation of seed material to provide to our farmers. Our investment in agriculture is reflected in the fact that over the 9 to 20 months period post-Hurricane Maria, short and medium-term crop production bounced back significantly. This is reflected by the abundance and variety of produce at the Roseau Market, a site we had lost for many months post-Hurricane Maria. I thank all the hard-working farmers of Dominica who have stayed the course and gone back to their farms. I thank them for the resilience they have shown and the confidence placed in this government in building back the agricultural sector. Madam Speaker, after Hurricane Maria, we imported 95,395 layer chickens over a period of 8 months into our country. I can report that the country has ended the importation of eggs in May this year. And we are back to being self-sufficient in eggs again. During the period 2018-2019, 124,868 broiler chickens were imported into Dominica, most of which were processed through the National Abattoir, yielding 444,767 pounds of meat, Madam Speaker. This represents a 30% increase over the pre-Maria levels. This is a significant increase from pre-Maria figures and indicates also an increased demand for healthier and wholesome local product. Madam Speaker, with a total of the 3 5-star hotels in operation by the end of the year, our farmers have a ready, captive market that can consume all the eggs and chicken to meet the demands that will be expected by the hotel industry. Government will continue to support, facilitate, and encourage key stakeholders within the subsector. In respect to health services, Madam Speaker, this Labour Party government is committed to improving the lives of every citizen and to ensuring the optimal healthcare services are available to all, but more particularly to the most vulnerable among us. Let me remind us that it was this government who removed hospital user fees for children 18 years and older, and our elderly 60 years and older. It is this government that initiated a pilot health insurance scheme to provide health insurance to single mothers under the age of 35 who were either pregnant or who had children aged 3 years and under. This was subsequently extended to children up to the age of 16. And, Madam Speaker, a significant number of Dominicans have benefited and continue to benefit under this pilot scheme. Madam Speaker, in respect to the new Marigot Hospital, we accepted that the source of financing and process for eventual drawdown had become too protracted. So we have therefore decided to fund its construction utilizing our own resources for the Citizenship by Investment program. We now have in our possession the architectural drawings, which will be shared with stakeholders very soon, and we expect that work will start on this hospital in 2019. This hospital, once completed, will be a source of pride and satisfaction for everyone in the Marigot Health District, and will be the envy of many. And this is, Madam Speaker, a firm commitment we give to the people of this country. Madam Speaker, the human element is critical in delivering on optimal health care for our citizens. And this requires the upgrading and training of our healthcare providers. We have been pursuing vigorously the ongoing training of our medical personnel at all levels, ranging from the specialization of our doctors to the training of 26 new community health aides. The expectation is that the deployment of these community health aides to the various health districts will spark a resurgence in preventive health care at the primary healthcare level. Our local capacity continues to be supplemented with support from our Cuban and Chinese friends. We have the combined support of 59 healthcare providers in various fields under the Cuban Medical Brigade program. They serve with diligence and love alongside the staff in our healthcare facilities. I say muchas gracias to our Cuban comrades, and to the Cuban government for the steadfast support to our healthcare services, not only through the Cuban Brigade, but in training of our doctors over many years. And this is why, Madam Speaker, we'll always stand in solidarity with the Cuban people, Madam Speaker, internationally. Similarly, we have had the support of the Chinese medical specialists. Currently, there are 4 specialists in the areas of oncology, ophthalmology, cardiology, and urology. And I say, xie, Madam Speaker. I say thank you to the government and people of the People's Republic of China. This government, having recognized the importance of China to the global community, recognized China and the One China policy in 2004, a progressive decision bearing fruit for the people of our country. See, Madam Speaker, I speak many languages, you know. Madam Speaker, this government continues to attach high priority to education, and we consider education to be the best means of empowering our people and the catalyst in our developmental thrust. This is why we have created many opportunities in education for our citizens to ensure that they have the necessary knowledge and skills to act as the drivers and guardian of a resilient and prosperous nation. We have always considered education as a catalyst in our developmental thrust. In the 2018-2019 fiscal year, government provided assistance to our young people studying overseas in the amount of approximately $23 million, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, after the passage of Hurricane Maria, we gave the assurance to every child who was the holder of a commitment letter from this government that we would ensure that our financial obligations to them was met, notwithstanding the government's fiscal challenges. It is with a distinct sense of pleasure that I inform this Honorable House and this nation that the Dominican Labour Party government kept that promise to our students studying overseas. And I give the assurance to the over 600 students who now have commitment letters from the government that in this financial year we will also honor our commitment to them. But, Madam Speaker, I say to them and their parents that these opportunities must not be taken for granted. A government's commitment to the education of a child is up to 16 years. The support you receive is because the government of the day understands the importance of education. And we have in the leadership of this government somebody who appreciates and applauds people's successes. We have created these opportunities because this government cares about people and a government that believes in the empowerment of our people. It is this Dominican Labour Party administration who in 2002, at the beginning of the austerity program, created the Dominican State College and revolutionized tertiary education in Dominica. When we came into office, only 7% of all high school graduates had access to the college, Madam Speaker, which meant that 93 out of 100 young people were denied access to higher education in our country. Today, it is 100%, Madam Speaker. And this is why, to ensure that no child was left behind, in May of 2019, we removed the requirement of tuition fees for every single child attending the Dominican State College. Madam Speaker, there is no better gift. There is no better gift a government can give to a young person than a sound education. And this is what this Labour Party administration is giving to the young people of our country. And this is what we shall continue to provide them, Madam Speaker, empowering them with something that no one can take from you, including the heavy winds and rains of Hurricane Maria, Madam Speaker. Following the passage of Hurricane Maria, the Ministry of Education embarked on a rehabilitation drive to get our schools back on track. An amount in excess of $10.8 million was expended on the renovation of schools. To date, 5 new early childhood education schools have been built in the communities of Bells, Warner, Concord, Trafalgar, and Rosa. Preliminary works are being undertaken for the 6 new schools, which will be financed by the government of the People's Republic of China, and major rehabilitation of 4 schools to be financed by the government of Canada. Madam Speaker, in last year's budget, I stated that tourism would play a major role in rebuilding economic resilience, maintaining sustainable livelihoods, and in enhancing the ability of our economy to rebound after a disaster. Today, tourism continues to be one of the main pillars of our growth in our economy. The Ministry of Tourism executed a recovery plan that has resulted 2 years later in a remarkable recovery of our tourism sector. we have not only returned to pre-Maria visitor arrivals, but we have surpassed and exceeded our expectations. According to the Visitor Statistics Report, a strong performance in stayover visitor arrivals in the first half of 2019 was recorded at 43,774 visitors. The numbers show an upward trend as compared to 2016 and 2017. The decision of this government, Madam Speaker, to use the Citizenship by Investment program to help develop five-star branded hotels is part of a wider effort to expand economic activity and the creation of sustainable jobs and opportunities for our people. Madam Speaker, the first of the CBI projects, Jungle Bay Resort, is now open to guests and employing 62 Dominicans, Madam Speaker. And left to somebody in this house, Madam Speaker, the hotel would not have been built. The Cabrits Resort and Spa, a Kempinski branded hotel, is accepting reservations for October 2019, and they have already started employing full-time staff. Madam Speaker, I was told this morning that if you want a room at the Kempinski for October and November, you can't get because they're fully booked, Madam Speaker. They're fully booked, Madam Speaker. During construction of these properties, including the Anachi Hotel branded by Marriott and Tranquility Beach Resort branded by Hilton, it is estimated that over 800 construction workers are currently employed. As I stand here, Madam Speaker, 550 workers are on the Kempinski site working to ensure they are ready for the opening of the hotel on 14th October 2019. Significant emphasis has been placed on the training of our people and stakeholders to ensure that visitors and locals receive consistent, excellent service. It will be necessary for us to deliver five-star service at all levels of the society if we want to position ourselves as the destination of choice. We have to be ready to deliver the level of service that this requires. Madam Speaker, in the last fiscal year, significant sums were spent for home repairs and construction of new homes. An amount of $86 million was spent in assisting residents to repair, renovate, and in some cases, build new homes. Madam Speaker, not only have we completed over 500 brand new homes in the period following Hurricane Maria, and as I speak, Madam Speaker, there are 1,068 houses under construction in various communities in our country. All of this is being done with the exclusive use of government funds and does not include homes built by the many NGOs who came to our aid after Hurricane Maria. Madam Speaker, as we progress with this revolutionary housing program, we have also explored areas for sustained employment in that sector. A condition of the contract with Sustainable Housing Solutions Company was a commitment to erect a factory for the production of precast concrete homes in Dominica. That factory, which will be constructed in Jimmet, will no doubt improve the efficiency in construction and enhance the technology used in home construction in our country. The factory will also allow us, as a country, to move from an importer of the technology to becoming a net exporter of the said technology to the OECS countries. Madam Speaker, the concept design of the geothermal project has been completed, and the no objection of the World Bank was received on July 9, 2019. The Dominica Geothermal Development Company will soon release the bid documents for the construction of the geothermal plant. The bid period is 90 days, and is also a contract for construction of the plant should be awarded by the fourth quarter of this year. Construction is expected to last 18 months. Madam Speaker, our geothermal project has also received an award from GeoLab 2019 for the best financing program geothermal risk mitigation project in the world, Madam Speaker. This reflects the tremendous effort that has been made to bring this project thus far. And when this project is successfully implemented, Madam Speaker, it will help transform the economy of our country. And it will help reduce the high rates of electricity that we are now subjected to in our country, Madam Speaker. So we look forward to this project becoming a reality. Madam Speaker, I am pleased to confirm to the nation that an investor has been secured to establish a medical school at the Picard campus. The government has entered into an agreement with the Dominica University of Medical Sciences to allow the university to function. We have been advised by the principals that they have been aggressively pursuing the completion of recruitment of the faculty, and they continue to conduct interviews to fill non-academic positions. They have also been in discussion with landlords on matters related to the housing needs of their students. The Dominica University School of Medical Sciences projects a growth in the student population of no less than 2,500 students by 2023. The DUSM also proposes the establishment of a school of nursing and a school of pharmacy. Madam Speaker, in respect to infrastructure, physical infrastructure, Dominica is well on its way to achieving its goal of having 100% of all main and secondary roads in good condition by the calendar year 2023. Despite the setback caused by the ravages of Hurricane Maria, government has continued an aggressive road maintenance and rehabilitation program. There are visible signs all over the country of a significant improvement in our road network, continuing from the work which started prior to Tropical Storm Erica. Madam Speaker, during the last fiscal year, we completed rehabilitation works on a number of roads, and it will take time if we are to list all of them, but I wish to name just a few, Madam Speaker. Several roads in Upper Goodwill, several roads in Canefield, the Granford Main Village Road, road from Pegua to North End Marigot, Cochrane Road, and the new Tatton Road from Purple Turtle to Bell Hall. The work's been undertaken on the Eau-de-Blanc Highway under the West Coast Road Project have recommenced and is very advanced. The 3 bridges being constructed at Makushri, Battley, and Pointron will be completed this year. In fact, the latter is virtually completed, save for the railing and approaches. Madam Speaker, this government has already expressed its vision to transform the city of Roseau by developing a modern urban center. We have started this journey with the construction. With the construction of the River Street, Roseau River Walls, to be followed by the Roseau River Promenade. This will include the installation of new drainage systems,
underground utility infrastructure, and full rehabilitation of the road in line with the designs of the Roseau Enhancement Project. The project will continue during the fiscal year with the construction of river walls next to Roseau Market and along the northern and southern riverbanks between the East Level Bridge and the Bath Road Goodwill Link Bridge. Madam Speaker, the opposition can laugh, as they always do, when great things happening. They can laugh. But the people of Roseau will see a major transformation of the city. And the works on the Riverside and River Street, which will be completed this year, Madam Speaker, you will see what we're speaking about. And they laugh a number of things, Madam Speaker. But they will be the ones who will be laughed at the appropriate time. Madam Speaker, during the past fiscal year, DUWASCO was able to continue implementation of the following large capital projects, which had been in progress from the previous fiscal year. Water Area 1 upgrade, consisting of the construction of a pre-treatment facility and upgrading the expansion of the filtration plant in Antrim. West Coast Water Storage Tanks Project, which comprises the construction of storage tanks and associated supply and distribution pipe works in Cottage, Gillett, Grange, Glanville, Picard, Bioche, Platmape, and Monratchet, and new intakes on Picard and Coulibistry rivers. Extension of water supply from Tetmon to Soufrière. Installation of the distribution network for the Belvis-Chopin and Pélissavan resettlement area. Implementation also commenced on 4 water projects funded under the Basic Needs Trust Fund, BNTF. Madam Speaker, members of this Honorable House, as we press on with the objective of bringing the economy to full recovery, we are laying the foundation for the emergence of a modern, resilient, and sustainable Dominica. It is in this context that I speak of recovery, modernization, and transformation. It means, for example, that every Dominican family and every household will be assured that the home or apartment which they own or occupy is in much better condition than the one which they occupied in 2017. Moreover, it will be sufficiently resilient to withstand the hazards of a Category 5 hurricane. It means that social services, such as health and education, are being delivered from climate-proofed facilities that are always adequately resourced to cope with events that could otherwise be disruptive. It means the end of dislocation of communities and of the crippling of commercial activity due to impassable roads and bridges after torrential rains and land slippages. When we speak of modernization, we mean insulating the country and economy as far as is possible from the risk and threats of climate change, Madam Speaker. We mean making Dominica internationally competitive by transforming our ports to efficiently handle containerized cargo and to directly attract flights from international destinations. We mean adopting protocols for environmental and resource management that regenerate our forest, protect our water resources, and enhance the beauty of our towns and villages. Critical to all of this, Madam Speaker, is the availability of a cadre of Dominicans trained and skilled in the cutting-edge technologies that set apart the most successful economies from the rest. By accomplishing these objectives, which this government is well on the way to doing, Dominica will be transformed. Madam Speaker, the estimates of revenue and expenditure for fiscal